Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back. I'm Sam and you're here at Tabletop Archives for another one of our DM Fireside Chats. Today, we're going to go over how to get your game off to a good start with a solid Session 0. Before we get started, just a friendly reminder to like, comment, and subscribe, and to do whatever it is that one does with a notification bell. Also, my standard disclaimer for these videos, I'm going to talk about a way of doing things today. By no means do I claim that this is the only way of doing things, and if you have an alternative to anything I suggest today, go ahead and leave a comment below. We'd love to hear any alternate ideas to what we suggest here. It's how you grow as a DM and as a player. So, if you build a house, make the fanciest, nicest house that anyone's ever seen. In a tabletop game, your foundation is your players and the mutual understanding between them and you as the DM, that you're all coming together to have an enjoyable mutual experience and tell a story. But if your foundation is shit, the whole thing will still fall apart. To that end, it behooves you to conduct a good Session 0 before you get started to build that foundation.
Session 0!
Now, Session 0 is so named because it occurs before Session 1 of play. It provides an opportunity for you and your players to set the ground rules and expectations of your campaign, also to go over the plot and where the narrative is generally going to go. There are a great many guides and checklists out there on the internet on how to conduct a Session 0. Many of them are very good, however, they're also hella long. So, today I'm going to stick to my top 10 points. Of note, I'm assuming for the purposes of this video that you know everyone who you're going to be playing with already, at least in passing. So I'm going to forego some of the things that you see, like do a roundtable introduction by name and state one interesting thing about yourself. Obviously that's more important if you're going to be doing like an online pickup game or playing at a convention, something like that. Point 1, establish table rules. This is all of the Barney-style stuff, like how you feel about sidebar conversations and how you feel about people having their phones out at the table, but it's important to put it out up front because this ends up being those little things that boil up until someone just snaps and you have an incident at the table because someone's been being annoyed for a long time. So just set those rules of politeness out up front so that everyone has a common expectation when they come to play. Point 2. Figure out how to handle your schedule and player unavailability. Simply put, a consistent schedule will make your game better and more consistent for everyone. This doesn't mean that you have to play every week or anything like that. It's just as simple as saying, hey, we're going to try and play every other weekend, for instance. You don't actually have to play every other weekend, but it's important that you at least sit down and try and be, hey, we're going to check with everyone every second weekend to see if everyone's available to play. In my experience, campaigns where you just say, oh, hey, we'll throw a game together when everyone's available, unless it's like a group of people that see each other every day anyway, then it's going to end up falling apart without that impetus and even that little slight structure to back it up. Also, address how you want to handle the inevitable event that a player will not be able to make it to a game. This is going to happen. That is a science fact. Shit happens. People have lives. Availability issues come up. That said, it behooves you to have a plan already in place when said shit happens. So, as a group, you need to decide how everyone feels about, if a player's not there, are you okay with having the DM play that character or another player play that character? Would you rather have the character put on a bus, so to speak, for that session? And this can vary person to person. You might have one player who's totally fine saying like, hey, yeah, DM, go ahead and play my character as an NPC, whereas a different player might not be comfortable with that, and they might say, hey, go ahead, I'm fine with you playing without me, but, just have my character stay in town and take care of personal matters, don't have them go out on the adventure without me there. And you might also have people who just say, hey, I'd prefer if you don't play if I'm not there because I don't want to miss out. Establish where everyone's at with that at the beginning so that way it'll avoid confusion and drama down the line. Point 3, talk about off-limits topics and subject matter. Okay, this is serious mode for a second, glasses are coming off. This is a discussion you need to have. If someone at your table isn't comfortable with something being present in the game, and brief trigger warning, I'm talking about things like, drug use, rape, or really anything sexual for that matter, depending on who your group is. Graphic violence, torture, racism, any of those potentially controversial subjects. If someone doesn't want them to be in the game, don't be a dick and don't allow them into the game, or the narrative, or anything. And no, people don't have to explain to you why they don't want that. Just be respectful, okay? Serious mode over, classes are coming back. Point 4, talk about the themes and tone of your campaign. This one's really important. Establish with your player what the central themes and tone of your campaign are going to be. If you're doing a sort of gritty detective horror themed campaign that fully intends to take itself seriously, that should inform your characters' decisions and attitudes and actions. I'm not saying that you have to be 100% drama or 100% comedy all the time. However, characters in a serious campaign should probably be acting with a sense that their actions and decisions have weight to them. Whereas if you're playing a more lighthearted campaign, a overly serious character will be kind of jarring out of place. Laying out those themes ahead of time will help align your entire party in their attitudes so that the narrative will flow more seamlessly. It will avoid breaking willing suspension of disbelief, which is something we'll probably talk about in a later video. Step 5. Frame the narrative as the DM. So, you've talked about the themes of your campaign. Now it's time to talk about the plot. This is where you kind of lay out your story hooks as the DM, talk about how the start of your campaign actually looks. This is also a good time to go over any limitations or constraints imposed by the setting and where you kind of see the narrative starting. So, for instance, say you're playing a D&D game, and your campaign follows a squad in the formal military of a kingdom on a world in which dragons haven't been seen for thousands of years, nor have their descendants or relatives been seen. Your party probably doesn't have a Dragonborn character in there. Dragonkin, Dragon People, I can't remember which one's Skyrim and which one's D&D, I'm trash. It also probably follows that your characters all have reasons for having joined the military in the first place. These kind of things help, again, create that consistency within your world. It helps everyone kind of think, hey, how do I fit in here, which is what we're going to talk about next. So, point 6, have your players inform the narrative. So, you gave your players their hooks, and now they're going to give you their character hooks, so to speak. We're talking things like, maybe one of your players is going off that same scenario. Maybe one of your players is joining the army to try and personally redeem themselves for a shady criminal past. And maybe another character is an immigrant from a distant land who is trying to learn this new culture they're immersed in while also proving their worth as an outsider to this new society. These things give you the narrative elements that will help you build character-based plot arcs and flesh out the world and story as the DM. It builds a cohesive narrative instead of just a train track about the main drama going on. Step 7. Establish guidelines on intra-player conflicts. This is kind of a tricky one. Do you want conflict between your players? If so, to what degree? What level of conflict is acceptable between the characters as far as what the players themselves are actually comfortable with? If two PCs have beef with each other and they get into a fight and one kills the other, is that okay? Or should that situation not arise because no one's comfortable with it? There's no right answer here. I would generally say that it's unreasonable and somewhat counter to good storytelling to assume that your players are going to, or that your characters are going to get along 100% of the time. However, coming to blows as characters in any sort of significant context usually ends up fracturing the party. Again, this is something you need to find on a group by group basis. And as an aside here, I'm going to say we're talking character drama. Intra-player drama is a whole different issue that I'm not going to cover here. That's if you got two people in your party that hate in your player group that hate each other, you might want to rethink your player group. Point 8, build your party. So there's two schools of thought on this. One says build all of your characters 100% as a group collectively. The other one says, hey, everyone bring a character to the table on game day or on session 0 day rather, and then we'll work out all the kinks and fit everyone into the narrative. I personally prefer the latter. There's a lot of merit to the former, however, especially if you're playing with a group that's new and could benefit from collectively walking through character generation. That said, if you're going to have players work out characters on their own and bring them to the table, make sure you put constraints out there ahead of time so people don't waste their time building a character that's just not going to be compatible. So again, going off the D&D example I've been using, you don't have to go super into detail, just something as simple as like, hey, build a level 5 character, no Dragonborn, has to have a valid reason for being in a military. That's all you need to give them. Just saves everyone time. I said Dragonborn again. I'm pretty sure it's Dragonkin. I should probably fact check the DM PHP before I start doing these. In either case, the main thing that you're doing here is integrating all the characters into the story. Look at things like, do the characters already know each other? If so, how? If they don't, how does the party come together to begin the adventure? Look at potential points of conflict as well. Intra-party conflict can lead to very good narrative if it's done right. For instance, look at the story arc of Boromir in the Lord of the Rings. However, you need to make sure everyone is on board with it and enjoying it. You don't want to compromise a player's enjoyment of their time invested in this gaming experience. The big thing that you want to avoid is an I cannot work with this person scenario where there's no justifiable reason why a character wouldn't just up and leave the party based on another character's actions. This is normally pretty obvious, things like the moral pacifist and the assassin working on the same team. However, it can come out in subtler ways, so just make sure everyone talks through their character concept really well. And if you're doing player secrets where the DM knows things that the players don't know about each other, as the DM, if you see something that says a red flag, probably pull those two characters aside and be like, hey, don't metagame this about knowing each other's character, but we need to deconflict this now before it becomes an issue later. Point 9. Discuss character death. So, character death can be a touchy subject. Some players are totally fine with a streak of random rolls spelling their character's doom. However, other players are not okay with an accident of the dice ending the life of a character that they've invested in and grown attached to and want to see the story progress for. Additionally, different game systems have very, very different approaches to character death. For instance, Dungeons & Dragons, dying is basically consequence-free if you're going by the read-as-written rules. If you know a semi-competent, moderately leveled spellcaster, you're fine. However, some systems like Only War, you are encouraged to bring a stack of character sheets to the table because your toons will die. It's just important to make sure that everyone at the table is on the same page about how the setting approaches character death and how you as a DM approach character death and how they feel about character death so that way people's feelings don't get hurt if it comes about. All right. Been really heavy. We're going to end on the heaviest note of them all. Point 10. Figure out the snack and soda situation. Mountain Dew and Funyuns aside, this just makes everything work smoother. Work out a plan with your group. It doesn't have to be complicated. I'm not saying you have to do, send in everyone's orders way ahead of time. For instance, the group I play weekly with, we meet at 5 o'clock on a Monday, so we usually want to eat right about when we get started, so everyone shows up, we all bring cash, we have an idea of what we want to order. There's 3 restaurants that we order from, so we just come with an order for each one, and pick which one we want to do when we get to the table, and then everyone contributes drinks to the communal drink fridge. It just makes everything run smoother, and it's a little thing, but it will help everyone's enjoyment. So, that's my 10 points. Also, I just want to say it can be helpful to do a sort of mini session 0 if you are adding a new player to a group, or if you are starting a campaign up again after a relatively long hiatus of play. It can kind of just help to realign everyone, and in the case of a new player, kind of integrate them to the group and orient the existing group to the new player. Also, finally, please remember that the list I've presented here today is by no means exhaustive, so if the bottom line is you're trying to make everything run smoothly once you actually get into gameplay, so when session 1 comes up, you just jump right in and everyone can enjoy the story. So if you see anything that could be a sticking point that would hold that process up, then, address it at session 0, whatever that issue may be. Anyway, we're getting wrap-up time once again. I just want to thank you all for coming out and joining me at the DM Fireside today. As usual, if there's a topic that you want to see covered here, please leave a comment below and we will make every attempt we can to get to it. Also, please, if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that little notification bell so you get updates anytime that we post new content. It's been really great having you here today, and I look forward to seeing you again here at the DM Fireside. Sam out.